So we are happy to have with us Jeanie from Jeanie's Bakery. Many of you might have seen her products or tasted her products from your local West Indian store. You'll see those, they have the nice labels, Jeanie's Bakery. She has the sugar buns, the um, bread, which she bakes at her own bakery and distributes as well. And she has her own store. It's family run, and Jeanie has been in business for the last 18 and a half years. Proudly Black owned business, proudly demonstrating how your family can be involved in your business and the success. It has not been without bumps. There still continues to be bumps, but it is how you ride this wave. And so it is my very great pleasure to introduce to you Jeanie. Um, Jeanie, thank you so much for agreeing to share your story and your insights with the rest of the, our training group. So would you like to just start by sharing your story? Just, you know, so we'll understand where you started and, how this came to be.
Okay, morning everyone. Thanks for inviting me on this.
Yeah.
Um, we back when in Jamaica, as the saying goes, you grew up behind the shop counter. That was part of my starting years. So it was something that I've always wanted to do. It took a long time, but eventually I was introduced to this store and I was told not to look at it as something that I see now, but something that I want it to be. It was rough. It was in rough shape, and we took it over. Had a lot of issues, but took it one day at a time. And so here we are, 18 and a half years later. We have grown that business from just being a shop into having the bakery and making our own Jamaican patties. So it's been a journey, but I wouldn't change it for anything.
So you said the
Okay.
18 and a half years you started in, that was in Canada? Because you
Yes.
mentioned Jamaica. How did Jamaica play in
Well,
it?
in Jamaica, my great grandmother was Chinese. And
Hmm.
so she had a shop in the district.
Oh, got
And
it.
she raised my mother. So we were constantly in the shop. So I was always fascinated. Back then you'd read the flour in the brown bag and all of that. And then my father also had a shop in the district later on. So it was always something that we were into almost every day. And I always wanted to have my own shop. But things along the way, you change, went to work, got married, you had to work, had children. And so priorities kind of shifted and came to Canada, worked in the bank, hated it, but choices were few. Always had a little business on the side though, because while I worked at the bank, we had a cleaning business. So work in the bank in the day, clean at nights. So there was always that desire to do something more, something for ourselves. So that's how this really came about.
Oh, wonderful. And thank you for sharing that. I think this is absolutely fascinating. So it looks like you grew up in a home where your dad and mom were business owners and they owned storage. You worked in that business, and probably that's why you got your initial fascination from, to own your own and to start your own someday. Um, So why don't you talk a little bit? So it's interesting that you started with a side business. And one of the things we
Mm-hmm.
shared yesterday when we had this event yesterday with our folks, and one of the things I told them was this: it doesn't matter the business you start with today. The business you run tomorrow may be different from the business you're running today. And this is just a clear example. So you started in cleaning, doing the cleaning business. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that business? How did
Okay,
that? How did that start?
Let me back up just a little. In Jamaica, while working, I worked in Air Jamaica for 15 years. Also had a side business there. I ran a bridal registry from my living room.
Oh, wow.
So coming here, it was, how do you just have one job? You know? Well, the cleaning business, we had a franchise with Coverall of Canada.
Oh,
We had that. We partnered with some friends of ours. It was tough, but we grew that business. Grew that business to the point where it could support both families
oh,
and
wow.
pay others to work. But it was grueling. It was hard work, and it was hard to find reliable people. But when I started the store, I had to give that up. I tried for a couple of years, but it was just too much. So we gave that up, and I focused on the store.
Okay, okay. All right, excellent. So when you say you gave it up, what does that mean? Did you sell it? Did you just quit?
That was, we kind of just gave it back to them because the owner undermined us. We were trying to sell it. It was worth quite a bit at the time. We were grossing every month over almost $50,000.
Wow.
And we had to go away to a funeral. And what he did, he contacted the prospective buyers and had them work for him for free.
Mm.
Oh.
And told them it wasn't worth it. So they had got cold feet and they backed out of the deal. And so we said, you know what, take it back. He didn't pay us much for it, and that was it. It
wow.
was not pleasant.
Okay.
Okay, wow. Okay, so that was such a sad exit. But I'm sure you
What's
learned
life?
quite a bit.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I learned that people can be very dishonest. But you can't be deterred by those people.
Right.
Those are just a few people of millions of people. And
That's
there are good people. So we move on.
Right.
right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting. So while you were doing the cleaning business, that was when you start. Was that when you bought into the bakery business that you now run today, or?
No, originally we didn't have the bakery. We took over the bakery back in 2008, I think. And we started in 2002. Had no clue about making bread more than throwing some ingredients in a bread maker. But I knew it was a good business. It just needed to be run properly.
There you go.
And so we stepped in and took that over and started climbing that mountain. And believe me, it was a mountain. It's like Mount Everest. But lots of tears. But along the way, there were lots of people who encouraged us, who helped us. So here we are.
So I just want to jump in because I want to take it back a bit for, so our um, business owners who are either thinking about it or are on their journey, just to get a more clear picture. So how did you have capital to start these businesses? Plus, you said you started in 2008 and then, 2002, and then you mentioned 2008. So how do we bridge that between 2002 and 2008? I'm not sure how
Okay,
that worked.
capital was whatever we had. Mortgage the house, loan from family, because the banks would look at us. The banks, our numbers were not big enough for the bank. So the bank didn't want to see us. Although we had excellent credit, all of that, no. So it was whatever we had. So we drained everything we had along the way. And we took our chances. because the kids were growing up. At the point we started the store, my youngest was just about going into high school. The other two boys were out of high school. But I just couldn't wait any longer.
So what made you leave the stability or give up the stability? Because you worked in the bank, you had your house, your kids were growing, and now you decide that you're throwing caution to the wind and going to mortgage the house, get into this. What was it? Is that a passion? What was it that led you to be doing this?
Well, it I guess it was. But I was so unhappy in the bank, so unhappy. I just did not fit in. There was a lot of discrimination, a lot of little cliques, and it was horrible. It got to the stage where I just didn't want to go into work.
Mm.
And so what I did was I took a chance when they offered voluntary severances. I just gotten a promotion to a supervisor position about 6 weeks before. But I was being given such a hard time because there was someone in the department who thought because she was there for 13 years and I was only in the department for 2 years, she should have gotten the position. But I got the position over her because of how I handle situations. You can't just know a job. Mm-hmm. It's about managing people. And there were 7 people in the department. But she gave me such a hard time. And it just wasn't worth it. It just was not worth it. My sanity was going. Mm-hmm. But when I left, I was focusing on the cleaning business a little more to grow it even more. And then my friend asked me to come and help her at a company that she was at. I did whatever odd jobs they had. I would stuff envelopes, whatever. Once I got paid, it was only part-time. So that filled that gap. And then it went from 1 day to 2 days to 3 days to full-time. And so I worked there for a few years before I took over the store. And there I gained a lot of knowledge. Mm-hmm. So,
okay,
but you just have to take a chance on some things. You can't go through life expecting changes without taking the risk. You can't get from point A to point B without making that first step.
Okay.
And that's just it.
Okay.
I love your courage and the kind of risk you had to take. So talk a little bit about the first store that you bought. I believe that was in 2002. So I'm assuming that was an existing business.
Yes,
that
it
you
was.
Took over. Okay. And so what was it that you saw in that business that you felt was, okay, there is some value here for me to buy and take over this business?
I didn't see anything. Let me tell you how that went. My real estate agent, Richard, he said to me, there's this big store. I hadn't even heard of it, and it is just like 5 minutes from where we live. I want you to look at it. The guy wants to sell it, but look at it through the eyes of how you want it to be. Listen, when I went in there, it was in horrible shape. Horrible. And I walked away several times, and he kept calling me. He says, Jeanie, I know you can do it. This is for you. You got to do it. You got to do it. And I started negotiating. We did up our offer to purchase and started negotiating. I walked away several times because this guy was cruel. And we went through even a lawsuit because 90% of the stuff he had was expired and they wouldn't give me back my money, but it was in the contract that any of the inventory had had to have an expiry date 6 months or more. But he was buying liquidation stuff and erasing the expiry dates and stuff like that.
Wow.
So he colluded with his lawyers, and the lawyer ended up paying out some of those funds to him. So we in turn reported the lawyer also to the Law Society. I didn't want anything from him. I wanted my money back. It cost me because it took 2 years. I ended up getting back what was there. And my lawyer wanted to know why I didn't want anything. I said, I don't want anything from him. I want what's mine. That's it.
That's
So, you know, it was rough, but we came upon some really good people, some suppliers, and to date, we have most of them still. I mean, so I just started. And let me tell you, it had to redo almost everything. And as I said, money was tight. We had no loans. As everything had to be done, you know, and some things were left undone for a while. But we started to grow. And I mean, I can still look back because I've recorded our sales from day one to see how much we have grown over the years. You know, it's something that encourages all of us here to see how we started and where we are.
So without divulging too much information, like, can you just say generally like what it was before when you started, and what, you know, generally, just generally, even in percentages if you want.
We started out, I'm gonna just look at my spreadsheet because I have it here to look at every day.
There you go.
So that I am constantly comparing today with what it was yesterday. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a little scenario. Our first day was February. Well, I started recording on February 23rd. We made $975 and we were celebrating. For the Easter, which was in March, we made $3,600. We jumped for joy. No. I mean, it was, oh my gosh. Or Saturdays, let me give you 2002. We study this because in keeping these numbers, we are able to determine people's spending habits. And we pretty much have it packed.
Wow.
Till they change. So on a Saturday, we would be making like $1,000. And that was good money at that time. So we continued. And as I said, it's hard work because then a lot of this stuff that we were bringing in, we had to go pick it up. And then my husband was working full time at the time. So every family member, I had family members coming up from Jamaica as residents. Everybody passed through and gave a hand here, gave a hand there. My mom was my right hand at the time. And so I used to take that Dodge Caravan, head to the East End on a Wednesday alone, load that van up till there was room for nothing else, come back, unload it, and start the day. But you know what? Looking back, and I always say, you can't ask somebody to do something. You shouldn't unless it's something you can do. Or there are things that you can't do. But in your business, like if I say to somebody, can you move this from here to there? I can move it, but I don't have the time to spend doing things like that. Or you wouldn't have a job. So fast forward to 2020, let me tell you, January 2020, was one of the slow months. Slow period. So we jumped from $1,000 on a Saturday to $6,000 on our slowest months. We are currently doing pretty much close to $9,000 on a Saturday.
Wow.
There you go.
And we have reduced our hours since COVID. We've closed on Mondays. We have reduced our hours by like about 4 hours during the week.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still doing better than before COVID.
Wow.
But it's interesting because you started with 900 and now you're at 9,000. If
Yeah.
you're thinking about it, right? I
Yeah.
don't know how much percentage that is we can
And
break
that's just the
down, but
retail side of
and
it.
that's just the retail, right? Exactly.
The retail
Exactly.
side, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is fine. So, this
So
is
that's super
fantastic.
interesting.
Yeah.
And I like the idea, when I asked you that question, what did you see? And you said you didn't see nothing. I thought that was interesting. And I like the conversation you had with your real estate agent, saying what, so just imagine. I think one of the things we forget to do is imagination, right?
Yeah.
We could imagine what would this business look like 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 10 years from now. And I'm glad you did that on that day when you made that decision to buy that store, because you imagined what that business would look like. And you didn't just
What
look
I
at
want
the
it to be.
problems or the current issues. You sort of
Yeah.
looked at what you wanted that business to look like. And I'm suspecting you had to change. You probably have new customers. You probably have new products. Compared to when you bought it.
Yeah.
Is that true? Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
essentially you created a
Yeah.
new market.
Yeah. We did. And one of the things I always maintained was I didn't want to be this little shop in the corner. That was never my goal. I didn't want to be in the same place forever. But there are certain things that just kept us there. But we were growing. Um, but at a pace at one stage I thought we couldn't handle. Um, the bread really started flying, and space was, crammed. Well, step back a little. When we took over the bakery, we got the unit next door. I tell you, God was in this all along. Anyway, because the store next door was a clothing store, and they had moved. So when we approached the landlord to get the store, we've always had a good relationship with them. And he said, okay, and they gave us a deal because we were at the two stores. Now we had to find the money to convert that into a bakery. You're going from a clothing store to a bakery.
Mm.
And there again, the landlord, coming to the end, we ran out of money. And the landlord, I approached them and they said, yes, they give us a loan and they take over the rest of the renovation. And that was how the bakery started. And then when we started outgrowing that space, we were saying, what are we going to do? There again, God stepped in. They kicked us out of the plaza because they wanted to demolish it to make apart townhouses. So we had no choice. We either had to close our doors or expand. And so we took another major leap of faith. And 2 years later, we are beginning to see the results. It was a hard 2 years.
Yes.
Hard 2 years.
Because now you're in a quite a big area, because I've been there and I've seen the bakery by itself at the back with your family members bustling in. I just want you to talk about that a bit, with the fact that you have your daughter heavily involved, your husband, your sister, everybody that your niece from Jamaica, if I remember correctly, she or
Yeah.
yeah,
She's gone now.
right. But as you said, they passed
our
through,
granddaughter is here.
Right. So yeah, so if you just talk about that, like how much they helped you in terms of the growth and the other thing that I was interested in is the fact that you have data, the use of data. How does that help you?
Oh, we couldn't exist without it. I admire technology. I don't run away from it. Although I'm in that age group that they usually do, but I don't. I gravitate towards it because it helps us. It takes some of the burden from us. I learn a lot from these younger folks, although they get a little impatient with me sometimes. Because I might have asked the same question a few times, but I have to know why I'm doing something. And so um, my son is a chef in the takeout. My sister helps him. My other sister used to help, but she lives all the way in Niagara, so it's just kind of rough. My husband is the main person in the bakery, and he has worked like a Trojan. But don't ask him about a dollar. Does not care about that. If he goes out and he collects $4.50, I'm getting $4.50. Yeah. My nieces, most of them, when they're in high school, they all worked in the bakery, packing bread, doing something. Give them something to do. And for us, also, my daughter's friends who needed their volunteer hours, lots of students pass through, lots of students. But everybody helped. There are people who helped us financially. So it has made a difference, and it has given them that sense of purpose in terms of who we are and the fact that we are not these people that have everything that we want. Mm-hmm. We work. We haven't gone without pay for about 4 years now, but we survive. We don't need things. And we have to help each other. And family is the first place you have to look. Mm-hmm. If they're interested. Mm-hmm. If they're not, then that's different. Okay. But I find that it makes a difference. They look out for you, for sure. My daughter is my right hand and half of my left. Yeah, I sometimes she has to say, no, Mom, you can't do all of that. You can't do all of that. But, I mean, people say at your age, you're still wanting to do more. Of course, I'm not dead. I'm not sick. I'm blessed.
Okay, good.
And the Bible says you're blessed to be a blessing. So you got to bless somebody along the way.
That's right. That's right.
So you got to keep going. What would I retire and do right now? Sit at home and watch TV?
Yes.
No, I get enough TV in the evenings and I get home. That's it. You got to keep your mind occupied.
That's right.
And your body will follow.
Okay.
You know.
That's right. That's right. So one question I have for you. So why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the mentors and coaches, people you looked up to, that helped you along the way in business? I imagine your parents were a great inspiration for you to get into business. Are there other people in your journey that you looked up to that gave you advice that you constantly went back to from time to time when you had issues in business that you needed to deal with?
Okay, let me back up a bit. My father was not in my life for a long time. My parents divorced. I can't remember how old I was. I think I was in high school. My mother was not the business person. She worked, but my father was. And he always had trucks that he would get contracts to move different things. I didn't really have a mentor because in this type of business, and this is what a lot of people don't understand, this is different from most other types of business. Most of them are either, if you're in the tech world, this is completely different. And dealing with our own people is also a challenge. Trust me, it's a challenge. But one person globally you asked that inspired me was Oprah Winfrey.
Mm.
One, we are born in the same year. We are women. We struggle with weight. She has progressed, and I'm saying, why can't I progress as well? There's absolutely no reason why I can't go through and make something of myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That's right.
And it's not to me about the money. It's about making something of your life, doing something with your life
That's right. That's right.
that you can either sell it or pass it on.
That's right. That's right.
You know, it can't be, I started out here, but I'm still here. No, you've got to keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's it. Nobody wants to mentor you in this industry. Nobody wants to tell you anything. When we started making our own patties, I remember one of these big patty makers. We talked good, and he said to me, "Don't go trying to make your patties yourself because it's difficult." I said, "Mm-hmm." Well, trust me, it was difficult. We lost a lot of money, but we never stopped. Never thought of giving up. I remember one night we were dumping 200 pounds of meat because at that time we didn't know how to store it properly.
Mm.
And we went through some changes, trust me. But guess what? We got it. We got it, and we got it right. So it's now to go to the next stage. But it's about, we don't, in our community, nobody wants to tell you anything because they feel that you're going to take away from them.
From the business.
People come to me all the time to ask me about starting a business. The first thing I said to them, I'm not going to tell you about the good parts. I'm going to tell you about the parts that are hard first.
Wonderful.
I'm not going to deter you, but you have to know if you have it to do this. I said, you can't do it by yourself or you'll move nowhere. If you have young kids, you've got to have somebody who's going to be helping you.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to tell you that, oh, it's easy peasy. It's not. But you have to have that backbone to stick it, or you're not going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to lose it, or you're going to just give up when things get rough.
Mm-hmm.
And trust me, I've seen things get so rough. And I tell you, I thought it was the end of the world, but I never thought, okay, this is it, I'm going to walk away. No.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was always, how do we get to the next point?
The next point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So this leads nicely into, because you kind of did it, but what are like 3 simple steps that you can give to, our listeners that they can implement immediately, whether they are, I think we have mostly people who are thinking about business or are in the earlier stages of their business as opposed to the mature stage. So what are 3 tips that you can give them? You kind of touched on a couple already, but
Okay, 1, if you're starting out, do a business plan. If it's just for 3 years, do a business plan. It doesn't have to be fancy. Do research. Do your research. It's not just about opening a door. I did a lot of research. I spent hours doing research. I got into what you call that, statistics.
Mm-hmm.
I researched how many Black people are in the area, where they lived. I did all of that before we opened the doors. When I started really negotiating with this guy, I started doing that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know exactly what your mindset is in terms of, you have to make up your mind that this is how I'm going to do it. But a lot of people think they can do it alone. You cannot do it alone. You will burn yourself out, and that's it. You're of no good at that point. You have to document whatever you're doing. Document your daily stuff. As I said, we have documented our daily intake from day one. What we have also done, I love spreadsheets. Excel is my favorite. And if you can't do it, get somebody to teach you to do it. Simple. I'm not an expert. I'll even type a letter in Excel rather than Word. But I remember Alison saying to me, Mommy, you have everything on a spreadsheet. Yes, everything's on a spreadsheet. And it looks confusing, but the information is invaluable. We document the sales from the bakery. We document the wages we pay out. We document the production daily. We document everything. And right now I have my niece helping me to do some comparisons, to put some of those spreadsheets together, to do the comparisons. That's where I need help, because I don't have the time to sit and do it. I have the data. It's just a matter of putting it together. But you have to have a plan. You have to have a cash flow. You must know after what your expectations are. If you're going to have $200 coming in today, you can't be spending $5. You should know and tabulate your spending based on your cash flow. I have my cash flow is basically combined with my daily, I call it daily cash flow. It's my intake. I know exactly how many checks are going to go through the bank on a daily basis. And that's a plan. I know on a Wednesday it's not so busy, so no, only X amount. Mondays, most of your cash is going to flow in between Thursday and Saturday. So most things are paid on a Monday. I pay the rule says pay yourself first. I pay my bills first. And then I pay myself.
Yeah.
But you have to get help if you need the help. So you have to leave that little room to say, I have to pay somebody to do X or Y. It's difficult to do anything. You can't be one person doing everything.
Right.
Yes, you might rake in money, but you burn out, and then you get to the point where you can't expand, you can't grow.
Right.
That's right.
I see quite a few businesses in that position. As some of them are getting older, they don't have help. Their children are not interested in their business, and so they are limited. They can't take on new customers, but they have good products. You've got to take that chance. It's hard right now. It's difficult getting people to work and to stay, but we have to keep going. We have to keep going.
You led into something.
Like this morning is confusion. Sorry.
No, go ahead. You said confusion. Go ahead. No,
yeah.
You go ahead.
2 cars to go to the dealership for servicing. The windshield on the van broke. We have to do a delivery. All of that. We got to do it.
Right.
It's not a matter of if. We have to do it.
Right.
A new customer calls. We've got to change up the delivery. We've got to accept that customer.
Good.
So.
Yes. So that's great. I think we're coming down to the closing, but I wanted to ask you about something you touched on. And I think we overlook it a lot in terms of our business. And that is actually one of the ways that I got introduced to you. The exit plan. Like, we have this, we're growing all of this. So how are we going to exit? Like, you know, in your case, you seem like you have a good plan in place because your family, luckily and fortunately for you, your family is interested, your daughter. So it's something that can continue, I imagine. But what do you say to other business owners with respect to exit?
Well, here is something, and that is from day one. Never think you can hide from the taxman. That's one of the problems. A lot of people run their businesses and forget that the taxman is important, because when you're ready to get out of that business and you have to sell it, you have to show what you were doing the last 5 years. And a lot of people I find are afraid to show their books because they don't pay enough taxes or they don't pay any taxes. And so you are boxed in a corner. How do you sell that business? How do you get benefits from the government, like in COVID?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not saying we are any better than anybody else, but it was easy for us to get help because we were there in the system. So it took a matter of 3 days for them to process the loan.
Mm-hmm.
No questions asked, because we were there and we have paid our dues along the years. You have to have in mind, what if tomorrow morning I get sick and I can't go in? What's going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
You have to think about, that's why I tell people, you can't keep it all to yourself. I know one person, I know two different people who have, one has expanded his business to a point. His two daughters work with him, but they're of no use, really. They're only there for the money. They can't take it over and run it. And he's now 80 years old, 80 something, and he cannot retire. His son is sick. His wife is sick. He has not taken a vacation. I said, you're killing yourself. But it's about the money. They own a lot of stuff. I don't own a lot of stuff. They own the buildings, they own this, they are mortgage free. No, I'm not mortgage free. But if anything should happen to me, the business can continue and that can pay the mortgage. So you have to look at your life as well now. What are you going to do with your life? Is your life the business? No. I would like to take my time off as well.
Mhm.
And I like to take my little vacation. COVID has kind of crap that.
Mm-hmm.
But we went away for the weekend, last weekend. We went up north for a few days. You've got to be able to detach yourself at some point.
That's right.
But, you know, as you have to put in place something. We haven't completed our exit plan yet, but we have the rough idea as to what it will be. We just have to finalize it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we have spoken with Errol,
Mm-hmm.
and he gave us pointers.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, it's been a big help.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yes. Errol is who I had
Okay,
mentioned
that's
to you,
fine.
Ken. Errol
Yeah,
is right.
I actually spoke with him.
Oh,
Yeah,
you did.
Yeah,
so we
Okay.
connected.
Right,
yeah,
good. Because
But
like this is
yeah,
an area that is really needed in
that's
our
right. That's
sphere
right.
of
yeah,
talking about the exit.
Because it's so
yeah,
sad. A lot of people run businesses and then at some point they just walk away from the business. Right. And so that's a mistake we don't want people making, right? So if you put in so much effort in building a business, if you want to exit, then you should exit with something in your pocket, right? You should sell it for something good. I just want to highlight some of the things you've talked about because I think there's just so much wisdom coming from you.
Yes.
You talked about the importance of having a business plan. So for those that are listening, it happens. That's what we're talking about this week, actually. Business
Yes.
plan. How do you build a business plan for your business? And so I'm glad that you mentioned that it's so important to have a business plan. But as you mentioned, not just any business plan, it has to be a business plan that makes sense. You talked about the research for your market, and I like the fact that you sort of, even before you close the deal, you had that imagination in terms of who your market is, and you spent time researching your market, finding out how many people live in the area. You even talked about their spending habits. So you're so detailed. I don't know where you learned all this stuff from.
The bank, the bank, the
You
bank,
talked
the
about
bank.
having the right
I had
mindset.
some, well, you know what?
Go
Think
ahead.
about it. I had some good mentors. When I worked in Air Jamaica, I
Yeah.
worked in the finance department, and I worked with people that taught me. I loved accounting, but I hated parts of it that were boring, like the auditing and all of that. I started doing my ACCA and got bored and decided, let's get out of this. But still loved aspects of it. So I learned from the ground. I know what a debit is and a credit is, and I know how to handle those. I find nowadays a lot of these new people don't understand. I used to use a ledger book that you turn the big page
Yes.
and you write, and you have
Yes.
to balance that thing.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
I mean, these are things that never leave you. And
Yes.
so I knew the importance of keeping numbers. I'm a numbers person.
Yes.
I really like to know my numbers. I mean, sometimes I fail them, but it's okay. We go back to them,
Yes.
and they get us back on track.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's so cool. Talking about the documentation, and that's one of the things we preach: the importance of keeping documentation. So one final question I have for you here is, why don't you share, finally, the transformation you've gone through all these years? How have you transformed from 2002 or even far back when you started this journey of business to who you are today? What is the transformation like? What kind of person have you become today? And what credits can you give to your business journey for that?
I've become stronger person, much stronger. I have learned to persevere. I've leaned on my faith. I have had to trust God. I just say, God, this is yours. It's not mine. You have to make this. I remember, I can give you a couple instances where at the end of the day, as I said, I know that I might need $500 today. And I try to stay within that, but things happen, things come up. And I know by the end of the day, I might need $500, and I'm half an hour from closing. And I'm saying, God, I need $500 before we close, because I have to go to the bank on my way home and drop off this money. So I'm leaving it with you. Of course, you say that, but you're still worrying. And lo and behold, the last customer coming in the door is going to be sending a money transfer. And you have already up that money. You have already put up that money. So you need to replace it. And there you go. So many times. So many times. And you say to yourself, why did I bother to worry? But that's our nature. But I've learned to trust God in all things. Sometimes I might go ahead and not ask him before I do things, but then I get a little nudge. Remember? But I have learned to relax a little now. What I have done is I don't take work home. I don't even have a computer at home. I used to work until 2 o'clock in the mornings when I had a computer. I used to sit up doing the books till all hours of the night. I used to have a desk in the corner of my bedroom. There's a desk now outside of the bedroom. I do not take home work. When I go home in the evenings, that's my time to relax, to do whatever I want to do with my time. I have to free my mind for the next day, because trust me, sometimes it comes sit in your heart. You get a call at 2:00 in the morning. This one is sick, or somebody not coming in, or whatever. So you have to really free your mind at some point. Now that we have closed on a Monday, that was Allison who pushed me into that. We were thinking about it, and she said, "Mommy, you have to do it." And we said, "Okay." And we're still doing even better than before. And it has given us that break.
That's right.
You know, and to face all the other challenges.
Mm-hmm.
But I have, over this period, grown to appreciate my children, each one for who they are. They are different. There are three of them. They are different, very different. They bring different things to the table. I'll give you well, Alison is my right hand, half of my left hand. Kevin is the oldest. He comes down here at 12:00 every Friday night to help in the bakery, because he saw how it affected his dad and how hard his dad had to work. And he comes here. He has his full-time job. And he comes here every Saturday night to help. I've been telling him, you don't have to come anymore. But he says, and who's going to do this? And daddy's going to have to do that. And I so appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't get a dime. He doesn't do it for money. He doesn't get a dime. So I've learned to appreciate each one. David is a chef. He has his own personality, let's say that. So, but I have learned to appreciate them. I have learned more about people.
Yeah.
And the fact that you must help people along the way, because you don't know who is going to help you along that journey. And who is who. Be kind to people. Well, that was something we were taught from we were young.
Mm-hmm.
Always have room in your house for one more.
Mm-hmm.
Except my mother always had room for 10 more. Do not ever think that you are better than the next person. And that's so true. But, I mean, I can't begin to tell you the changes that we have gone through. But we're still here, and we can talk about them.
Okay.
But I love being in this place. Some mornings I just want to lay in my bed. I don't get up. Doesn't mean that I don't want to come in, I just want, and I've decided I'm taking that time. So some mornings I come down a little later because I'm here till close. Yeah. But you have to give yourself a break. Give yourself a break. Give yourself time to learn about yourself. Because sometimes we think we can't do things. And I've learned that, man, you can do some things that you never, in your wildest dreams, imagine that you could do.
That's right.
So never give up on yourself.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for this, so much wisdom. So for those that are listening, I think they've gotten a dose of wisdom today from you. So thank you for sharing that. So if people want to know about you, if they want to find your all the stuff you sell, where can they reach you? Where can they get a hold of you?
We have a website.
Okay, what's the website?
They can go to the website. The phone numbers are there. The email address is there. Call me, email me. I'll talk to you.
What's the website?
Do you have a website?
What's the handle
it's
for the website?
Jeanie's Marketplace. No, JeaniesMarketBakery.com is a website.
Okay.
We're also on Instagram.
Yes.
That part I know nothing about. And we're on Facebook.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Okay,
So
so we'll see if we can post the
That's right. We'll put
website.
it in the notes. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
find the
yeah.
point in the notes.
Okay.
All
All
right. Thank you
right.
so much for your
Thank you
time.
so much for your time, Jeanie. This was
And thank you so
wonderful.
much for thinking about me.
Yes, yes, yes,
No
yes.
All
worries.
right. Take care,
Okay. All
guys.
right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Have a
All right.
great
Take
day.
care.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.
You too. Bye.